Myself, Dr. Nazma.Naskar, and today I am going to present on designing multi-class pattern classifier using Cellular Automata. Regarding this, first of all, we will discuss about what is Cellular Automata, and then we will discuss some terminology of Cellular Automata, which help us to define as what is how pattern Cellular Automata can used as pattern classifier. Then we will discuss there's two variation of CA-based pattern classifier. One is tree-based pattern classifier, and another is hierarchical pattern classifier. And from there, we will get to know that what are the future scope and what can be improve. How can we improve all the performance and the performance of these classifiers? First of all, that we know, first of all, that we'll discuss about what is Cellular Automata. Cellular Automata is nothing but the mathematical model, and it is a simple arrangement of cells, and each cell is characterized by the set of integer called state. And cells are locally interact with each other based on the neighborhood dependencies, and it can simulate it simulates behavior of the nature using this local cell interaction, and this thing makes it interesting to the researcher. Now, this number of state, neighborhood interaction, all things are varied, and we have lots of model of Cellular Automata. Among this, the model of Cellular Automata, the most simpler one, elementary Cellular Automata. In the elementary Cellular Automata, we have one-dimensional, two-state. This two-state can be 0 or 1, black or white, anything. Two-state, three neighborhood Cellular Automata. Now, what I mean by this? This is this one-dimensional direction, and say this is our present state. This is our present state S at time t, and it will depend on this left and right neighborhood. And based on this value of this self, left and right, we will derive the state of next cell that at the timestamp is t plus 1. This is called the local function. This is this is how we can derive this the collection of this local function is called the global state or the configuration, and this configuration is updated using equation 2. Now, as here we can see that there is a dependency of this neighbor. So there is an important condition that what will be our starting and the ending value. What will be if I'll just, this is my first cell. So the left cell is empty here. So how I can deal with this situation, and if this is my last cell, then this last right is empty. So how we can deal with this condition? For there we have two type of boundary condition. First one is this boundary condition, and second one is this periodic boundary condition. For the null boundary condition, here we always the extreme left and the extreme right, we always assume there is a logic 0. And in case of the periodic boundary condition, there is we can thought it is a circular queue or circular linked list type structure. That's extreme right will be treated as the left of extreme left, and similarly this extreme left cell will be considered as the right of extreme right cell. So these are the basic concept of the Cellular Automata. Now here we can, as I tell earlier, that we have two states, 0 and 1 here, and we are considering here three neighborhoods. So there are possible number of state will be, local state will be 8, and this 8 values are called the RMT. And this 8 RMT can be filled up by again 0 or 1. this 8 RMTs again can fill up by 0 or 1. So this will be lead us the local number of local mapping function is 2 to the power 8, that is 256. That is 256, and it is starting from this 0 to 255. The range is from 0 to 255. So we have for the elementary cellular automata, we have number of local function is 256, starting from 0 to 255. Next say that we have, here you can see that 4 different rules are there. If there is a 4-cell CA, if there is, we can assume there is a 4-cell CA. So we have how many the states are there? There will be 2 to the power 4, that is the 16 states are there. And from one state to another, we can reach from one state to another state, and the graphical representation from the transition of the state is called the state transition diagram. In our state transition diagram, we have different kind of states are there. We can see that this is a state transition diagram of some CA. Here we have see that these cells are forming cycles. These cells are forming cycles. This type of cell is called as attractor. And apart from this attractor, which cells are not forming cell, they are called the acyclic state. They are called the acyclic state. There are 2 types of acyclic state are there. Some of them are reachable from one state, and some of them are not reachable. For example, this set, this one, all these things are, all the states are, or all the configurations are not reachable from any of other state. This state are called non-reachable state, whereas this state 0110, it is reachable from 100, but it does not form any cycle. This is called the reachable acyclic state. In this transition of states, sometimes we have such state, sometimes we have the scenario will get from the state 1 or configuration 1 to we can reach configuration 2 or state 2. Again from this state 2 to we can also reach to the state 1. This is called this multi-cycle attractor, and if there is only one state, then we will call it is the point state attractor or single cycle attractor. Now the question is that how we can derive one configuration to other configuration. For that we have to calculate the Rmt sequence. Now what is this Rmt sequence? This Rmt sequence again we have due to the boundary condition, we have different for the same RMT we have different sequence. We can achieve the different sequence. For example, this is our state 1 1 1 0. Now in case of null boundary condition, as I stated earlier, they are left and the extreme right and extreme left will be considered logic 0. So first we will just convert the first 3, means 0 1 1 into the decimal. We convert this binary to the decimal, that is equivalent, decimal equivalent, that is 3. Next we will shift our window from the first one to this one, and this 1 1 1 lead us to the decimal equivalent 7. And this type and this way we can achieve a sequence of RMT, what is called this Rmt sequence. And based on this Rmt sequence, we'll derive the next state. If I have this set of rule, and my Rmt sequence is 3764, then what will be our next state? Our next, for the calculation of next state, here you can see that our first RMT is 3. So we'll consider the rule 1 here, and their rule is here, this value is 1. So I'll just put here 1. For the 7, this one I will consider this rule 205, the 7th RMT, it is also fill up with 1. Next RMT for the 6, it is considered for the 6 as it is the third RMT. So I will consider the third rule 1. And for the fourth RMT, the value is also 4. Here we can see consider the fourth rule. This is also 1. So after this state 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, we'll get the state wall 1. In case of periodic boundary, here we don't consider the logic 0, rather than we just implement the idea of the circular queue or the circular linked list. And this state transition diagram, in this state transition diagram will be help us to identify different patterns where each attractor, this is called as here with the 5 attractors. This is called a single basins, and each attractor will represent each class. The basic mechanism, now we'll discuss about the basic mechanism that how CA is used as pattern classifier. For example, say there is a 4-cell CA where we have 4 number of attractors are there. That means that maximum number of class can be represented by this CA is 4. And we have a data set. Say we have a data set where 3 classes are there, 4 blue classes, 4 data are from blue class, 6 data is from red, and 6 data is from this green class. Now question is that which attractor will mark for the which class? For this mechanism, say that these are the some randomly each state is other data from the different classes. In very first attractor is marked as red class. Why this is marked as red class? This because of that we can see that in this basins we have 4 number of state, and in this among this 4 number of state, 3 are from red class and 1 is from green class. As maximum number of classes is identified from this red class, so I will say that this attractor will represent our red class. Similarly, in this basin, maximum number of patterns is identified from this blue class. So I will say that this class is this attractor will represent blue class, and similarly, the second and the third are maximum number of patterns is identified from this green class. So these are the classes. Next, how I will calculate the different parameter of a classifier. That here we'll just calculate accuracy or efficiency, that number of correctly identified pattern and divided by the total number of pattern. We know that total number of pattern is 16. Now here we can see that among 4, initially we have 4 blue types data are there, and this class is represent blue, so it is correctly, blue is correctly identified. 3 patterns from this blue class is correctly identified, whereas this is wrong identified, means this attractor is basically represent green class, but this data is fall into this green class attractor. So this blue class will be wrongly identified or incorrectly identified. Similarly, this red class is also this green this attractor represent greens, and this red data is also fall in this, so this is incorrectly identified. So we have, after this type of calculation, after this type of identification, we have the 3 blue patterns are identified correctly, 5 pattern are 5, this means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 5 green pattern are identified correctly, and other 3 red classes identified correctly. So total number of correctly identified pattern is 11, and total number of pattern initially we have 16. So the accuracy will be 11 by 16, that is 62.8. Now, using this basic concept, we'll first train our data. First, train our data using the training set, and here we will generate n number of CS, or we can say that multiple number of CS, which will provide us the highest accuracy. We will mark it is as a final or final CA, and that CA will be taken input as for the testing data, and this the testing as for the testing data, where we will for the test data set, if the number of how many number of correctly identified patterns are there, based on this we will calculate this accuracy. Here are some real life data set taken from the UCI repository. This where the first column represent the dataset name, second column represent the after conversion of the binary what is the size of CA, and the third column represent the number of cases, and the fourth column is represent the testing accuracy. And here we from the state of art method, we see that the accuracy of in these five data sets, the accuracy are the till now the highest accuracy for the using the CA based pattern classifier. Now, what are the conditions we can derive from our discussion? So first condition is that we need a multiple attractor cellular automata, where the number of attractor must be greater than equal to the number of class. Otherwise, it is not possible. And second is our preference is we have to always synthesize, or we have always to consider the cellular automata with point state attractor. And we have to also to reduce the memory overhead, the number of attractors should be very less. But it is found in the maximum cases that there is a high probability to decrease the accuracy with the number of classes. To handle this situation, we have two types of CAs. We are two types of CA-based classifier, or the variation of CA-based classifier we derived. That is tree-based structure classifier and hierarchical two-class classifier. In what is now, first of all, we'll discuss about what is tree-based or Maca-based tree structure classifier. Say that we have 4 classes are there, S1, S2, S3, based on 2 features, X2 and X1 and X2. Now, in decision tree based classifier, what happened? For if I have to just classify this, first we will just check. First, we will just check that what is the whether this x1 value is greater than equal to 0 or 5. If it is 0, if x1 value is less than 0.25, then we will mark this is as S1. Otherwise, we will not decided yet, which is an intermediate node. Now, based on this state line, means this one is over. Now, based on the value of x2, again we will divide our state space, that whether the value of x2 is greater than 0.5 or not. If it is greater than 0.5, then data can be from S2, S3 and S1. This S2, S3 can S1 if it is greater than, and if it is less than, then still we don't have any decision, but we can decide that whether either it will be from S3 or S4. Next, again, we'll consider the x1 features. If the x1 feature is greater than 0.75, then we'll mark this data as S4 and otherwise from S3. Similarly, here in this subtree also we can derive the different classes based on the features of x1 and x2. This same concept, this similar concept can be we can implement using the tree-based classifier. In this tree-based classifier, initially we have this data set and we will generate first Maca or the first CA. For the first CA, as we have said that P number of attractors are there, and in this P number of attractor, say our first attractor identify all the data from class 1, so it is marked as class 1. Next, attractor 1.3, attractor 1.4, both of these attractor is identify all the data from class 3, so they are marked as class 4. But attractor 1.2 is identified the mixed data, that is 1, that the data are from class 1, class 2 and class 4. So whatever this data, whatever the states are identified by this attractor 1.2, that will be considered as the next data set, and it will for the next data set, and again a next CA will be generated, and this for this set of data. And from here we have second level of data are there, where we can see attractor 2.1. Again, attractor 2.1 identify all the data from class 1. Attractor 2.2 identify all the data from class 2, and attractor 2Q, maybe 2Q identify all the data from class 4. In this way, we can implement, or we can increase the accuracy, and we can increase the accuracy from the general pattern classifier, and we can implement the multiple pattern classifier. But this is the ideal case that in here we'll just discuss, till now we'll just discuss the ideal case that it is not always possible. We'll get a attractor will identify all the classes, all the data from only one class. In real life, what happened, there is multiple number of classes, that is this scenario is occur. This scenario is occur in case of this real life data, the number of the attractor is identified by the different number of classes, different number of data from different classes. In such cases, we have to limit that how many percentage, we have to limit, or we have to design the stopping criteria. Means if say that attractor 1, if I'll say this is identify 90% data from a certain class, then I will stop breaking, or I will stop this further dividing. So next, so this is a field. This is a open field that for any data set. Then what will be our stopping criteria using the MACA-based pattern classifier, and that is also a problem for MACA-based tree structure classifier. To overcome this problem, we have hierarchical two-class classifier, where we just divide our classes into the simplest MACA-based classifier, that is two-class classifier. How it is implemented, as I stated earlier, that say I have 4 classes are there: S1, S2, S1, S2, S3, and S4. So we can cloud it that S1 and S2 are from a single class, and S3 and S4 is a single class. We'll assume that initially we'll assume that S1 and S2 is single class, and S3 and S4 is from the single class. And based on this data, we'll implement two-class classifier. Further, these classes, when this first division is over, next we'll again implement this, again we'll select some CA which divide our data set into S1 and S2 and S3 and S4. So this is the next, this approach is called this hierarchical two-class classifier. Now here is also an chance there. Here is and also a question is there that how I will divide initial division will be there. This can be done by the centroid. This choosing of the class or class division or the cluster data data cluster can be performed by the centroid choosing method, and it is under the considerations of for the further consideration. So in this presentation, we'll learn about or we'll discuss about this, what is the basic of cellular automata and how can we implement multi-class pattern classifier and how to deal with the various shortcomings of multi-class pattern class CA-based pattern classifier. However, we can still improve our performance of the pattern classifier that using fuzzy based CA, or next we have scope to improve the accuracy using the number trade-off between the number of attractor and accuracy using some objective functions. We can also it is also a open problem, that is handling imbalanced data using how we can handle imbalanced data set using CA-based pattern classifier, and whether the different pre-processing technique, that is for pre-processing technique, can affect the the accuracy of CA-based classifier or not. Oh, thank you all. And these are some paper from where I take the references. Any questions?